All right, in today's history class, we are going to talk about the modernists, the extremists, the Indian National Congress. I'm sharing the screen and other stuff we are going to talk about in details. Okay, starting with the modernist phase of the Indian National Congress. Modernist phase, Indian National Congress. This occurred during the late 19th and the early 20th centuries. And the time period was between 1885 to 1905. Now, in 1885, only the Indian National Congress was found, okay? And during its initial phase, Indian National Congress underwent a phase which is characterized, which is known by moderates and liberal, okay? Like liberal approaches, sorry. Moderates and liberal approaches towards any kind of political or social issues. And this phase, where Indian National Congress used to have all sorts of liberal approaches and moderate approaches, that phase is called the moderate phase, or we can also call this phase as the moderate era. Moderate era of the Congress. I told in this year it was founded in Bombay. Okay, so first this was founded with the aim of obtaining a greater share in the government for the educated Indians, so that all the educated Indians can get good seats in the government, so that they can also give their opinions, proper opinions. So this first session of the Congress took place in Bombay. And who was its first president? The first president was Umesh Chandra Banerjee. Okay. Now, who were the moderates? Moderates of the INC, I'm saying. The moderates were the early leaders of the Congress. Okay, the very first leaders of the Congress can be termed as the prominent moderates. Who were they? Dadabhai Nauroji. Then, okay, some of the names, let me write. Dadabhai Nauroji. Din Shah Washa. And a president's name should always be there. So, obviously, there were other members also. The initial objectives of the Congress were quite modest and focused on constitutional reforms to bring about more efficiency in the administration, to give more civic rights to the to Indians. And as I've already told, they wanted a greater share of the Indians, educated Indians in the government, like providing the Indians more seats in the legislative and administrative affairs under British rule. Of course, most, like many leaders of the modernist phase were associated with social and educational reforms. They have worked for social upliftment, for focusing more on modern education, and eradication of social evils. And obviously among them, Dadabhai Nauroji was one of the prominent persons who was a strong supporter of economic nationalism and social reforms. Okay, there were some early like demands of the Congress, and among them, some of them are reduction of military expenditure, more representation of Indians in the legislative bodies. Okay, now what can we include under the moderate methods? Now, the leaders of this phase of the moderate era, they believed in the use of constitutional and peaceful methods to achieve their objectives. As we know very well, moderates and extremists miss the difference. Moderate means the middle path they choose. So they used petitions, okay? They used resolutions. They discussed the matters, okay, to convey their grievances to the British authorities. So they did not keep mum. Also, they did not like protest. Also, it's like that. They did not use violence. Also, but as you know that if when only discussions do not give you the desired results, you have to move over to violence. A more assertive approach would be required at that time. So then came about the extremist phase. Okay, this we also sometimes call the Swadeshi movement, because that was the main thing in the extremist phase. In the extremist phase, we get to see more radical and assertive methods in the struggle for Indian independence. And this sudden shift from moderate viewpoint to extremist viewpoint, we can see this shift at the time of the partition of Bengal, which took place in the year 1905. During this time, the viewpoint totally changed into extremism. And of course, the partition of Bengal marked an end of the modernist or the moderate phase of the Congress in India. Okay, and it like initiated or helped in the beginning of the extremist phase. Now let's talk about a little more in a detailed way what the moderates actually demanded. We had discussed a little bit, but not in details. The moderates who led the Indian National Congress during the period that I have told from 1885 to 1905, they had a set of demands and objectives that were obviously relatively moderate when compared to the extremist demands, and they focused more on constitutional reforms. Okay, and number one would be civil service examinations in India. Now, the moderates, okay, let me write this down. Demands of moderates. CSA, Civil Services Examinations. Moderates advocated for holding of the Indian Civil Service, that is ICS examinations in India, to provide more opportunities for Indians to enter into the prestigious civil services. Okay, so they were basically fighting for Indians to get into these services. And increased representation, so I have already told, in the legislative assemblies and all, legislative bodies and all. Increased representation. Thirdly, of course, end of discrimination. Like the moderates sought an end to all sorts of discriminatory practices in the government services, which were based on race or nationality. Okay, no discrimination should be allowed in terms of anything. Okay, they wanted equal opportunities for all Indians in all branches of government. So yes, that was one demand. Then local self-government. Now, there was a demand for the introduction of local self-government institutions to allow Indians to have a say in the administration of their local affairs. Now, before this, they were not allowed to participate in any kind of decision-making process, which was unfair. Very, very unfair, because someone who is taking decisions for you, there should be a person representing all of you, right? But there wasn't that provision existing beforehand. So with the demand of local self-government, this provision was started. Educational reforms were made. The moderates were very keen on educational reforms. They emphasized the importance of modern and scientific education, along with promotion of indigenous languages and culture. They fought for the freedom of press. The moderates, they sought greater freedom of the press, arguing that a free press was very, very essential for the articulation of public opinion and also for safeguarding the civil liberties. See, everything should be accurate. Like whatever the press used to like print, that should be, even if they would have printed something from the public's point of view, that should be absolutely correct. It shouldn't be anything spiced up. Okay. So yes, that was, and another thing was the people, the officials from the British officials, they were not letting the press to what should I say, like to showcase all the news of nationalism that were happening all around India. So they were curbing that. They were controlling those kind of printings and reprints, which was not correct, because now everyone had to know what's going on around the country. And if the British officials had done this, then it's really difficult for the people to know what's going on. So hence the moderates were fighting for the freedom of press also. Like they fought for the freedom of press also. They also brought about certain changes in the economic policies. Some leaders, such as Dadabhai Nauroji, he focused on economic issues, and he advocated for economic nationalism. Okay. He even highlighted the wealth from India, like how much wealth is destroyed, that he showcased, and also called for certain policy changes that would promote more Indian economic interests. Social reforms, I have already told, eradication of social evils they have done. They have brought about improvement in the social conditions, uplifting the lives of women and other people. And also they have worked for upliftment of the lifestyle, of the standard of living of the marginalized section of the society. They have done a lot for all of these people. Okay, so what were the key contributions of the moderates? Key contributions. Okay. A.O. Hume, he was he played a very key role in bringing together all the prominent Indian leaders to establish the Congress. So all thanks goes to him. And like, firstly, the Congress was built or established for expressing all sorts of political opinion, for giving political expressions. And all the prominent leaders, Indian leaders, were brought about together in the same platform by A.O. Hume. And so, yeah, he was one of the key contributors in the establishment of the Indian National Congress. Of course, I have already told about the demand for constitutional reforms, representation in the legislative councils, civil services reforms, that civil services examinations should be held in India to allow more Indians to enter the prestigious civil services. Then other key contributions would include promotion of education, because not everyone was getting the privilege of having education. Recognizing the importance of education at that time, the moderates emphasized the need for modern and scientific education. Okay, not only vernacular language is important, but also all sorts of other languages are important, because at that time English was quite important. Okay, it was necessary for people to communicate, to know, and hence it was a part of modern and scientific education also. Not only the science subjects, but also English as a language was a part of modern and scientific education. So hence it was again used, and also certain use of indigenous languages, cultures were also promoted in the educational institutions. Now, as I have told, that the moderates did not focus too much on extremist ways. They believed in petitions, discussions, mostly discussions only. So what do we come to know from this? That moderates always tried to promote unity. Okay. So the moderates work towards fostering unity among different communities in India. It doesn't matter like whether you're a Muslim or a Hindu or a Christian, it doesn't matter. Okay. And this Congress platform, as I have told, it was created as a common platform where people from varied regions, they can come, from various religions, from various backgrounds, they can come together and have a shared cause, and like share their opinions. Okay, the first president, Dean Shaw Washa, that I have told, was president only, right? The name that I had told. Anyway, moderates like Dadabhai Nauroji, then Dean Shaw Washa, they used international platforms also, because they need to take support, right? So why only take support from the national level? Let's take it to the international level also. They wanted to garner support from the international level also for the cause of Indian independence. And they also presented the grievances, the problems of the Indian audience to the global audience. And by doing this, what did they aim to do? They raised awareness. Okay, they raised awareness, and also they wanted to show the global audience the need for change now. Okay. Though we can say that not much like we got from the contributions or the steps which were taken by the moderates, though we can say that much we didn't achieve, but still that the moderates laid a foundation. for doing all these things. Okay, from moderates, they slowly moved over to certain radical approaches as leaders began to question the effectiveness of the moderate methods, because truly saying that much was not achieved, which was targeted. Now, moving over to the extremist phase of the Indian National Congress. Now, this refers to a period where, yes, this refers to a period when the leadership of, just a moment, when the leadership within the Congress, it shifted from, as I have told, from more assertive to more radical ways. Towards more assertive and radical ways. From calm methods, moderate methods, it went over to certain radical methods and more assertive methods, okay? Because the first one was not giving that much of effective results. This time period had the duration from 1905 to 1919 and was, yes, this was the time period. See, what did I say? Partition of Bengal marked an end of the moderate rule. Now, from that point of time, came about the extremist phase. So that is why the year is 1905, the year when Bengal partition happened. So partition of Bengal means what? What happened basically? The decision by the British to divide Bengal happened in 1905, and it was kind of a very important catalyst which led to the emergence of the extremist leaders, that now we need to do something really, really important, because now these simple methods won't work. Okay, because see, with the partition, so many people were suffering so much. We can't even imagine what happened with those people. So people now became furious. Okay, that no, these modernist methods won't work at all. Let's move over to some extreme methods. Okay, so and we know why partition happened. This move was seen as kind of an attempt to divide and rule by creating religious divisions, because now we clearly know Bangladesh is all about Bengali Muslims, and here in West Bengal we have all the Bengali Hindus. So it's like that. So who were the first ever extremists? We know the names very well. We have Bal Gangadhar Tilak. We have Bipin Chandra Pal. We have Lala Lajpat Rai. They strongly opposed the partition, and that played a key role in mobilizing public opinion against it. Now, extremist phase, I told there is another name that we can call it, and it's the Swadeshi movement. Okay, Swadeshi movement, everyone's concept is clear, I know, regarding Swadeshi movement, means supporting our own industries and not accepting any kind of British companies or British goods over here. So in response to the partition of Bengal, I told everyone was furious. So extremists, they launched this Swadeshi movement. Swadeshi movement also happened in the same year when Bengal partition happened. Okay. And it was a nationwide movement that called for the boycott of all sorts of British goods and the promotion of indigenous industries. Okay, like you have to support the industries within your national territory. So Swadeshi involved all sorts of mass protests because after all, we are talking about the extremist phase. So hence we are talking about protests, of course. Then demonstrations, use of like promoting the use of traditional Indian products and all, which stopped for a while because of more and more import of British goods. Then happened boycott. Boycott, I have already told. Then a non-cooperation, like extremist leaders, they advocated for the boycott of British institutions also. Like educational establishments also closed down. Legislative councils also were having problems, and they were having problems over there. So with all these things happening around, the Indians got encouraged to resist against this colonial administration, and they also started adopting a non-cooperation stance. Means they are not, we Indians, we are not going to cooperate with the Britishers anymore. We are going to support our extremist leaders. Okay, we are not going to support the British officials anymore. Okay, now use of a militant language. The extremist leaders, they were more vocal and they used militant language in their speeches and writings. They were critical of the moderate methods because, first of all, people who don't like all these peaceful discussions, they will always talk also, like negative stuff about the moderates, because they have always liked the extremist ways. Why will they support even 10% to those moderates? Okay, so the way these extremists used to deal with Britishers were more direct, more shrewd, okay, and more challenging approaches were made to the British rule. So that was quite different from the way that we have seen with the moderates. Then formation of the All India Muslim League. Okay, All India Muslim League, it was formed in the year 1906, and the partition of Bengal, you know that when it happened, 1905, the partition of Bengal had an impact on the Muslim community as well, because as we all know, the Muslims had to go to Bangladesh, and then the Hindus had to come to in India. So this led to the formation of the All India Muslim League in the year 1906. The extremists, however, they continued their work towards Hindu-Muslim unity. Though if the partition happened, that doesn't matter. They still worked on for the unity. Okay, next is the formation of Home Rule League. Now, in 1916, who is joining? In 1916, leaders like Bal Gangadhar Tilak, then Annie Besant, they formed this All India Home Rule League. Okay, the league was formed because it aimed at attaining self-rule for India within the British Empire. Okay, self-rule would be there even if the British Empire is there, but still India have to have self-rule. They have to attain, say, self-rule. So, Bal Gangadhar Tilak's Home Rule League movement, Home Rule movement, it gained support in many parts of India. Okay, it got support in almost all parts of India. Then came about World War I and Lucknow session. Okay, now with the onset of World War I, saw the Congress leaders extend their cooperation to the British in the hope of securing political concessions. Then happened the Lucknow session of 1916, which witnessed the coming together of the both moderates and the extremists within the Congress, thus forming a united front. Though you say moderates and extremists, they don't hate each other. It's like their approaches are different. So they can definitely unite together and work. So in the Lucknow session, it was for the first time that the moderates and the extremists, they were in the same session. Okay, so I told within the British Empire that was in India, the extremists were focusing on attaining self-rule. Okay, self-rule, I said. So now, with the Montague-Chelmsford reforms, of 1919, this was introduced in 1919, but it did not meet the nationalist aspirations as they had thought. The extremists criticized these reforms because, again, it did not provide any kind of measures for self-rule of India. So in response to this, the Khilafat movement was launched in collaboration with the Muslim League. Okay, because the reforms were not up to the mark in the Montague-Chelmsford reforms, that is why Khilafat movement was launched with the help or with collaboration with the Muslim League. Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Okay, this brutal Jallianwala Bagh massacre that happened in Amritsar, where British troops suddenly fired on a peaceful gathering, definitely had a very profound impact on the nationalist movement. And this event further intensified the anti-British sentiments, which were already there. And it was already quite intense, and more intense it became. Okay, and it fueled the demands for complete independence. Till now, what was happening before the Jallianwala Bagh massacre? Before the Montague-Chelmsford reforms, they were aiming for, yeah, there would be British Empire, but India should be having self-rule. But with the Montague-Chelmsford reforms, the reforms that were passed, that was not up to the mark. So the extremists, with the help of the Muslim League, they launched the Khilafat movement. Okay, they were already against the Britishers till then. Then happened the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Now after this, the Britishers were like to be just kicked out. Now the concept came about that we have to kick out the Britishers. We don't want them anymore. It is too much now. We can't bear it. It's like that. That is how it intensified after the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Now, why did suddenly from moderate viewpoint it changed into extremist viewpoint. What are the factors that led to the growth of extremism within the Indian National Congress during the early 20th century? There can be various factors. Till now, you all know what can be the factors. First would definitely be the partition of Bengal, which happened in 1905. Um, Now, the Britishers had aimed at divide and rule, hence, they made the divisions, religious divisions among the population. That is why the partition happened. And secondly, why did extremism grow? Because as we know that there was quite discontentment with the moderate policies. There was not a proper solution happening. So hence, more and more extremist viewpoints were coming up and was growing. The moderate leaders of the Indian National Congress, they were criticized for their cautious and constitutional approach, which some felt was just not yielding any significant results, no proper results in terms of political concessions from the British. So, yes, hence we can say many nationalists at that time became very, very disappointed with the slow pace of reforms, and hence they moved over to more methods. Now, of course, here Bal Gangadhar Tilak had a lot of influence when I talk about him as an extremist. He was a very prominent leader during the extremist phase, and he played a very crucial role in shaping the radical discourse. There were other young leaders also, as this new generation of leaders during this extremist phase, they are also known as the Young Turks. Young Turks. Okay. This name emerged during this period, means in the extremist period. And these leaders, Young Turks at that time, were Bipin Chandra Pal, Lala Lajpat Rai, and Aurobindo Ghosh. Of course, they were very, very less patient with the moderate methods, and hence they moved over to the extremist methods. And you know why they are termed as Young Turks? Because that time they were quite young, and the and the moderate leaders, they were quite old. So the young blood, they want, young blood means warm blood, too much of warm blood. So now people can do anything and everything for achieving independence. So hence they were quite young at this time. So they were protesting, they were fighting, they had this young energy to do anything. That is what I tried to say. Like they brought fresh energy and they brought radical ideas to this nationalist movement. Fresh new ideas. And Dadabhai Naoroji, I told that he showed the Indians that too much of economic exploitations were going on, too much of wealth was getting drained because of the Britishers. So by seeing that, the people, the Indian people, they were quite angry with the fact that our wealth is going down, our economy is getting exploited by the Britishers. So this also fueled some certain resentment. Now all the people were against the Britishers, and hence it called for economic nationalism. Then certain religious movements, social movements were also there, like the Arya Samaj was there, the Aligarh movement was there. Arya Samaj, Aligarh movement. they had an impact on the political consciousness of the people. The feeling of cultural and region and religious pride, everything contributed to the growth of a more assertive nationalist sentiment. Okay, and as I was saying, though this topic is all about how extremism was going and growing, and why extremism was growing, we have already discussed that there was this failure of all sorts of constitutional methods, like the moderates' reliance on more and more constitutional methods and petitions that did not give proper solution. It was not fruitful. No, it was, as I have already told, it laid the foundation, but it did not work in that way. Then we just talked about World War I that was happening. Then Russian Revolution also happened during this time. So from everywhere, this feeling of nationalism was growing. From everywhere, we could understand that what all people are doing for their country. So why can't we do it? Everywhere people are protesting, everywhere there is bloodshed, so let's do some bloodshed so that we can achieve independence. So that was the type of idea that was generating among the people, of self-determination, of anti-imperialism. Okay, these were the concepts that were gaining more and more importance. So yes, hence we can say all these things only led to more radical approaches. Yeah, now let's talk about the leaders one by one. Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Now, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, also you all know, known as Lokmanya Tilak. He was one of the key leaders during the extremist era. And he was quite a strong advocate for the self-rule that I was saying. Oh, I did not mention the word. Self-rule was actually known as Swaraj. Okay. Self-rule. That thing that happened, that was being considered before the Monte-Chelmsford reforms, that we need self-rule. India needs self-rule within the British Empire only. That's okay. Let the British Empire be there, but let India rule itself. Why will Britishers rule us? It's like that. So this was this Swaraj or self-rule, and hence Bal Gangadhar Tilak played a very crucial role in the promotion of other things also, like Swadeshi movement. Okay, he was one of the prominent leaders in that also. Okay, his famous dialogue, Swaraj. Actually, I shouldn't be saying dialogue. It's his call. Okay, his call, Swaraj is my birthright. And I shall have it. And he also tried to mobilize the masses. Okay. Like, everyone loved him. Everyone wanted him to be the leader because he had that determination to achieve what he is saying. Not everyone can do that. He was an influential leader. Anyone can be a leader, but being a very influential leader where people will listen to you is very rare. So yes, he was one of them, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and another one was Bipin Chandra Pal. He was again very influential. He was one of the influential leaders during the extremist phase. Okay, Bipin Chandra Pal, along with Lokmanya Tilak and Lala Lajpat Rai, they call themselves as the triumvirate known as the Lal Bal Pal. You all know that. The trio Lal Bal Pal. So he was also a strong advocate when he stood for the boycott of the British goods and British institutions. His fiery speeches were quite influential. It helped to convince the people. Okay, and his writings were also quite. What should I say? I'm using the same word anyway. Influential once again, which helped the people to change their mindset into quite an aggressive one so that they can fight against the Britishers. Lala Lajpat Rai is remaining. So Lala Lajpat Rai, he was the third member of this trio, and he was again a very prominent leader from Punjab. And he was quite actively involved in the agitation against the partition of Bengal, and later he also played a very key role in the Swadeshi movements and all the boycott movements. Yes, he also did a lot to uplift the social status of the Indians in general, and also brought about certain economic reforms. Aurobindo Ghosh. Aurobindo Ghosh, he was later known as Sri Aurobindo. He was again a nationalist leader who played a very significant role in Bengal during the uh, Bengal partition, during the extremist phase. Uh, he was also fighting for complete independence from the Britishers. Um, and he believed that only the use of force can help you get freedom from the Britishers. And force is very necessary to achieve anything. Okay, it was according to him. So hence, through this only you can understand how far revolutionary activities he conducted. And he gave the idea of Purna Swaraj, means complete freedom. Purna Swaraj, complete freedom. Or complete self-rule. Self-rule would be better, complete self-rule. The person who actually started the Congress, that is A.O. Hume, his actual name is Aurobindo Ackroyd Ghosh. He was, of course, originally associated with the Indian National Congress in the year 1885 that I've already mentioned at the beginning of the class. He also became a very prominent leader during the extremist phase. He also played a very encouraging role in the formation of the Congress, and later he joined the extremists. He worked towards the goal of self-rule. Then another leader was V.O. Chidambaram Pillai. Although he was okay, so Chidambaram Pillai was also associated with the Indian National Congress. Okay, in its early years. Um, he was also one of the well-known extremists because he also believed in using force rather than doing silly discussions. So he was also associated with Swadeshi movement, especially in South India, because he was a South Indian. So he would know the languages of South India in a much better way than the other people. So hence he was taking care of South India. And he also promoted indigenous industries. Let's discuss about the partition of Bengal. The partition of Bengal was, of course, a very significant event in the history of British India, and as I have already told, it like played a very crucial role in shaping the nationalist movement. Now, what was the background due to which this partition of Bengal happened? Now, Bengal under British rule was quite a vast province, and we all know even at that time the population was huge, and the British authorities kept on arguing that it's really difficult to manage such a big area with such huge population. We can't even control the population because there were so many people. The province, the Bengal province, it covered a huge area, and hence this problem of ineffective governance was there. Concern was arising. Then, with this problem arising, what happened? Lord Curzon came, and Lord Curzon proposed this partition as a means to improve the administrative efficiency and to facilitate better governance. That was the very first thing that we can say due to which partition of Bengal happened. Okay, we don't know the exact motive, but this was the motive that was being discussed within the British officials, that okay, it's really a very big province, it's really getting difficult to govern this place, let's divide it. Okay, but we don't know what was there at the back of their mind. This was the primary reason. Okay, Lord Curzon, while he was proposing this partition, he argued that the eastern part of Bengal, like the Bangladesh part, had a more agrarian character, or had a more rural character. Okay, and it would be quite. And this western part, it was a bit more. It was a bit westernized. So that was their concept. Okay, that the then part, which is now called Bangladesh, that part had a very agrarian character, and this part, it was a bit westernized. So hence, in that way, the division can happen. Okay, because we need to know how the division is to happen. So in that way, that was the basis of division. Okay, that in this way we can divide the province. Then came about, but at that time, people did not much extend that it was actually done due to Hindu-Muslim division and all. But afterwards, when this thing was again studied and more research went on, many historians and scholars, they have argued that the partition also had religious undertones. This was not the primary reason. Religious problems were always there. Divide and rule, that was the main thing that was going on at the back of the mind of the British officials. So this eastern part, it became East Bengal, okay, which had a Muslim majority, while the western part, it retained the name Bengal. Okay, from Bengal province, it became Bengal and had all the Hindu majority. So it's still not sure. Only through certain research historians and only through certain research work, on the basis of those things, we can say that we may think that the Britishers' actual motive was to divide and rule and to create a barrier based on religion. But we still don't know We are just assuming. Okay, this is what we have studied since childhood, right? That the Britishers made the partition based on religious lines. But in reality, the thing was different. They thought that the problem was happening with too much of population. And just because that eastern part of Bengal province is quite old in character or agrarian in character, we can just divide that part. Uh, we can make a division in the middle, and that would be better. Okay, because this part has a bit westernized thinking, and that part is a little bit of olden things. So let's divide it on that basis. That was the thing. Now no one knows what was the actual motive. These two can be termed as the primary reasons. And of course, then after this announcement of partition, um, widespread protests happened. Because why will you leave your homeland to go to some other land? Why? Now Muslims were told you have to go to that side, otherwise we don't know what can happen to you. Okay, they were and the Hindus on that side, they were told that please go back to your Hindu area, otherwise we don't know what can happen with you here. The Muslim majority will stay. So that is how the fear um, came about in the minds of the people. And with time, we can now see that the Hindu majority, that is the western part of Bengal, which included Calcutta at that time, it was, but see, it was, as I have already told, it was perceived to be more economically prosperous than the eastern side. And if, see, there were people who thought that if this partition happened, then what will happen to East Bengal? Because West Bengal side is more prosperous economically. Then what will happen to this East Bengal? Because we will definitely need some time to become economically prosperous. This partition is already like draining us of our everything. Like people have to move from one place to another. No one knew what to do. It was quite a state of confusion. So yeah, that was the problem that was happening. And then happened the Swadeshi movement, where people, nationalist leaders like Lokmanya Tilak, Bipin Chandra Pal, Lala Lajpat Rai, they were the leaders who were providing or who were mobilizing public opinion. Like they were taking people from around them, around the society, who would support their viewpoint, and they were mobilizing support against the partition. And that the partition shouldn't be there, and it should that shouldn't be sanctioned, okay, through this Swadeshi movement. Okay, there happened a reversal of this partition in the year 1911. Okay, the province of Bengal was again reunified, and the new province of East Bengal and Assam were created. Okay, so Bengal, see, this totally different part, this sanction part, it was already written down, but then the appeal was removed because protests were going on, oppositions, they were asking to remove this partition and all. So now the province of Bengal, it was again reunified, but new provinces were made. One was this East Bengal and another was Assam. So, at this time only, you all know that previously Calcutta was the capital of the Britishers in India. All the administrative work took place in Calcutta. But when this happened in the year 1911, the capital of British India moved from Calcutta to Delhi. So from then on, Delhi is still the capital of India from 1911. Okay. Now, talking about the Swadeshi movement a little bit. Swadeshi movement, as I have told, it happened just in the same year of Bengal partition, that is 1905. And the movement aimed to protest against the partition and promote self-reliance, economic independence, and the use of indigenous products. And this could only happen because of the partition, because of the participation of the nationalist leaders, because of the involvement of the nationalist leaders. Okay, that was very important, without which this wouldn't have reached that level. So this helped in the overall goal achieving of self-rule. There were public demonstrations, protests, large-scale public demonstrations, protests, meetings happened during the Swadeshi movement. People got down in rallies, then processions. They were blocking roads. Mass meetings happened to express their opposition towards this partition of Bengal, and they supported all sorts of Swadeshi ideals. And what do you think? What the Britishers did? They just sat still? No, they also did something to stop this. The British authorities, they responded to this Swadeshi movement with repression, of course. They tried to arrest people in masses, okay? Many people were arrested. There was censorship of newspapers. There was deployment of police and military forces to control the protest. But still, as you know, that the mob was quite wild. They were not there to stop. So this movement even continued to gain momentum even after this. And see, a thing, when it happens, it does not bring about the change immediately. Slowly and steadily change comes. Okay, suddenly change doesn't happen. Slowly things come about. So while this Swadeshi movement did not immediately lead to the reversal of the partition, but it still had some sort of a lasting impression or lasting impact on the Indian independence movement. It led to the foundation for subsequent phases of the struggle. There were separate phases of the struggle, and hence it also led to the growth of nationalist sentiments after this. You will get to see so many songs, poems written down for the sake of Mother India, like Bengali songs, Bengali poems, Vande Mataram, so many things. Okay, I'll be keeping it till here today. Okay, anyone having any kind of problems? No?
No, ma'am.
Okay. From next day, we are going to do the history only in this class, starting with Surat split and all. Okay. Then Gadar party, all those are there. We will be finishing off with this portion in the next class. Then we can start a new topic.